G'day mate and welcome to Shipbuilding with me, Jitty. In this series we've been breaking down spaceships with one topic per video. Engines, crushers, asteroid grabbers, storage are all things that have been covered and are in the playlist below. Today we're covering weapons, ranging from the simple to the downright dangerous. What should you build on your ship and how many to keep the space biters away? Now, if the Aliens movies have taught me anything, you can never have too many weapons at your disposal. But the top three, unfortunately, they're not at your disposal as they can't be built in space. And it turns out asteroids are not connected to ground, so Tesla towers won't help you either. But it does take out space biters with ease. So whilst I rebuild the ship, I'd like to ask you, can I borrow a like? I'd just like to borrow a like at the start of the video. If you don't find the video helpful, you didn't learn anything along the way, then by all means, you can have your like back. So with the ship rebuilt, let's talk about our actual gun choices. As I said, the top three can't be built in space, so we can ignore them, and also the Tesla's only going to be any use if we're dealing with space biters, not so much asteroids. So how many guns you actually need on your ship will all depend really on your speed of your ship and also the size of your ship. Wider ships generally need more guns, and faster ships need even more. If you really want to know what's stopping your ship going any faster, that's in the engine video, which I'll link to the description below, also be in the pinned comment. I'll link it up the top right-hand corner, make it nice and easy for you to find. Also, I should mention research is going to play a large role in how many guns you'll actually need. So let's actually start with the simple gun turret. We get early game, it's actually the workhorse of most of your space adventures, and I have a very simple build because it produces 6.25 ammo per second from 4 simple electric furnaces. Obviously we can't have any stone or steel furnaces in space due to lack of oxygen, and that's can all be supplied by one simple crusher just outputting the iron ore. And I have a row of guns up here, and we need to talk about some targets. So when it comes to asteroids, we have several different asteroids that we need to look at. We're going to start off with, well, small metallic asteroids. These are going to be the ones you're going to start finding everywhere as you start getting out of space. These are pretty harmless. They're pretty tame. They're something we can deal with fairly quickly. And if we just throw one of those in front of the guns, we can confirm that they're vaporized straight away. This is going to leave you with a couple of chunks that the asteroid grabbers can pick up and then hopefully put into storage. Again, we've got a whole dedicated video on asteroids and storage. Then we have the medium asteroids. They're a little bit bigger, but as you can see, the guns still deal with them quite well. As for research, I should mention research because it's going to vastly impact how many guns you need and how effective they are. I'm on base research, so I've researched everything up to, well, none of the infinite tech. So we have laser weapon damage 7, 6 is the last one, that's prior to white science. Same with physical projectiles. Also, I should mention explosives as well. 6 is where we're up to, which is technically the first tier that's not infinite. So we're still on base research, but yes, your guns can deal with small and medium very, very well. When it comes to a big asteroid, you can see that they have a small problem. Now, if we check the Factorio, we can see that they have a physical resistance of 2,000 and then also 10%. What does that actually mean? It means the first 2,000 damage output in the physical category gets ignored, and then whatever's left over, 10% of that gets applied. As our little guns here happen to be using yellow ammo that's doing 5 plus 5 physical damage, being a total of 10, well, that's well less than 2,000. So at the point of big asteroids, your guns are pretty much useless. What does that mean for you actual traveling out in space? It means for just guns, you can go anywhere between Navas, vulcanus, Gleba, and Foray. You go for the inner loop. If you wish to go out to Aquilo, you're going to need something a little bit more powerful because that's when you start dealing with big asteroids. This is where our guns have sort of reached their match. Now, we do have other options, of course. We also have other setups for guns. This, like I said, is doing 6.25 ammo per second. This little build here, a couple more furnaces, still fed by a single crusher, is doing twice the amount of ammo. Now, again, if we go back to a metallic asteroid, big, okay, rocket, you're not meant to be helping. Please, stop. You're the next tech demo. Please be patient. Okay, if I throw this back out, we can see that it's at 1,999 hit points because everything gets ignored. So technically they did 1 hit point worth of damage and then that was absolutely it. That's going to apply to the big of all 4 different varieties of asteroids. Next, we get the rockets. So what you're going to start using for big asteroids, but they can also take out the small. So if I throw a small out here, we can see it's instant gibbed. If I throw out a medium, it's also instant gear, but you might have noticed we might have thrown out some extra rockets at the same time. That is because if we look at a medium asteroid breaks into 3 small asteroids, a big asteroid is going to break into 3 mediums, and then that 3 medium is going to break into another 3 smalls. So it means if I throw down a big, can I put you about here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rockets, and then we have another 3 rockets, and then we have another, we can see how quickly we're going to start burning through rockets. if you're just using rockets to deal with the asteroids. I do recommend you look at the target priorities. We can tell these guys to only shoot big asteroids, and we can actually have them be that the priority, or we can have them just shoot that and nothing else. So if I set these guys up to just shoot the bigs, we can see bop big is gone. It does mean the mediums are going to float around and hopefully not run into your ship, but if you happen to have some guns as well, they can definitely be sorted out with a couple of guns. Next thing I should mention is rockets. As you can see, we're launching 5 rockets to deal with one big asteroid. If we jump into research, we have stronger explosives. Now, stronger explosives is going to be what we need to get rid of asteroids a little bit quicker. If I just get 1 tier worth of research and then we throw down a big asteroid, 4 rockets. Oh, and the guns are now helping. Awesome. Cool. So we can vastly decrease the amount of rockets required if I just get 1 tier worth of research. If I want to cut it from 4 rockets down to 3 rockets, I need to get strong explosives number 8, so that's another tier, and then we can throw down one of these, and now we're down to 3 rockets. Again, vast improvement. If I want to cut it down again, we need to go from stronger 8 to, I need to complete 9, 10, 11, and 12. That's 32,000 research for that last tier. And now we're down to just 2 rockets. Now, if you want to go higher, you really want to make sure that the asteroids, generally the big ones, are going to be dead and done with as quickly as possible. It is possible, and it is possible to do it with 1 rocket. It's just going to need just a bit of research. After you complete all the way up to stronger explosives number 22 at 32 million, you then need to also get stronger explosives number 23 at 65 million. I will warn you, that is an awful lot of research. Also, it's an awful lot of moldy research. So yeah, that's going to take you a little while to get done. But once that's done, we can then drop down a big asteroid, and it's now 1 shot. It does mean that its little brothers are also going to be 1 shot as well, which is going to make life a little bit easier. But if we let these guys target everything again, and then ask them to take out a huge asteroid, which is the next tier up, you may notice we have a small problem. That is because huge asteroids have, again, we bring up the Factorio, they have a explosive resistance of 99%. Also, 3,000 physical damage is ignored. Again, if we look at our rockets, we can see that they are doing 200 damage, plus another 2,000 physical on top. This is why they can take out a big asteroid with a base health of 2,000. Also, it does have some explosion resistance. That's why we need to go just above 2,000 damage to be able to take them out in 1 shot. But the huge asteroids are a whole different problem. And as for how do we make rockets, we need a little bit of water, we need a little bit of carbon, a little bit of sulfur, and then a simple chem plant doing the coal synthesis recipe with a couple more chem plants, changing the coal and some extra sulfur over to explosives. That'll feed 3 assembly machines, making 0.9 rounds per second. It's unfortunate it's 0.9 rounds per second because you're actually making 1 explosive per second. And of course, rockets just need a little bit of iron and a little bit of explosives. In saying that, if you were at all curious, if you take a simple speed 1 and put it in a single assembler, well, then they then they consume 0.31, and no longer 0.31, but actually 0.37. With a little bit of rounding, because it's actually a perfect ratio, they now consume 1 explosive per second, and that'll get you to 1 rocket per second. Now, this is standard rockets. You can get and you can use explosive rockets, but you might notice they are normal rockets do 2,000 damage plus the base of 200, whereas the explosive rockets do 50 plus 500 explosives, and then they have an AoE damage of 100 plus another 1,000. So they technically do a whole lot less damage, but it does have that AoE bonus. That AoE bonus can be very effective and very helpful at taking out asteroids when they're very thick together. As for their green friends, well, don't forget, I do have an awful lot of tiers worth of research, but they're very good at taking out your ship. Not so much anything else. Big metallic asteroid. Let's throw one of those about there. Yeah, we can see the problem very quickly. Double check their range and try again with a huge asteroid instead, right here at the edge of our visible area. It definitely works, but you need to make sure it's on very, very much on the edge of your visible area and the edge of your range. Of course, quality rocket turrets can give you more range, and that is definitely a viability, but do be warned that yes, so is the front of your ship disappearing. As for rockets again, I have a slightly different build here. As you can see, it's a little bit more compact. It is still working on the same ratio. A couple of chem plants making explosives, another chem plant making the coal synthesis, except we have two assemblers this time, still doing 1 rocket per second, but with the use of a beacon and a little bit increased modules, we can get a little bit less machines used and a little bit squarer output. Again, this is all being fed by 3 crushers running the advanced recipe, with 1 extra crusher outputting a little bit more carbon because we don't quite get enough carbon from the first 3. Again, modules can all change that. If you add a little bit of productivity here and there, you could definitely bring this out to a better ratio. Anyway, on to our next weapon choice. Our next weapon choice is the all-powerful laser. Now, the all-powerful laser has a couple of advantages. One, it doesn't require ammo. That's why we tend to use them on Narvis to keep the biters at bay. But it also comes with a drawback or two. That being, well, resistances. As we can see, the very small asteroid, the first one we start off dealing with very quickly and very easily with guns, has laser resistance. The medium is now up to 90% resistance, the big is now up to 95, and the huge is at 99. So if I throw down a small one, it's pretty much gone straight away. That comes down to the amount of base health they have. It's only 100 hit points, whereas our lasers, if we look over at the right-hand side, they are shooting 1.5 plus 3.3 per second, so they're actually shooting at 4.8 times per second, and they're doing 20 plus 46 lasers, so they're doing about 66 damage every single time they shoot. It takes out things pretty quickly. If we step up to a medium, which has that higher resistance of 90%, it still disappears fairly quickly. If we step up to a big, which is now up to 95% resistance and has a whole lot more hit points, they do slowly go away over time, but also do remember we're talking about a stationary ship here. It's not moving, therefore the asteroid's not really charging towards us. If it was moving towards us at about, 100, 200 kilometers per second, we might have a little bit of an issue. Now, again, we need to look at research. So, everything up until now has been with base research, apart from the rockets. If we look at lasers, we can see it's 1,000 points here. If we take this up, so let's go with 10. So that was 8,000 research, and then I throw down a big asteroid again, it disappears a little bit faster. But we've only talked about 10,000 points in research. It's not an awful lot. If I come back here, 8,000 points in research. If I come back in here and I throw a few thousand, let's do 5 million, 8 million, yeah, a couple of million points in research, lasers become a lot more viable. Things tend to disappear a lot faster. It does mean that you can replace some of your inside ships in your inner system. Rather having dedicated guns using dedicated amounts of iron, you could move across to just lasers. Also, your huge asteroids, technically you can hurt them. Even at 99% laser resistance, you can hurt them, and if all else fails, you can always have more lasers. Yeah, everybody likes a light show in space. With enough lasers, everything can disappear in good time. Now, I do need to make some honorable mentions when it comes to weapons, and that is our 4 choices we have across here. Let's start off with a big asteroid versus the ship hull. Now, you can imagine this goes pretty much the way you expect. The hull does an alright job of slowing it down. But the trick is you actually need to make the asteroid stop. Once the asteroid stops, that's the point where the hull wins. If we step that up to a huge asteroid and drop that into place, well, it's going to do a pretty good job of ripping through our hull. Now, in saying that, the trick is to make the asteroid stop. Once the asteroid stops, it then gets destroyed. Also means if your ship's moving, well, getting that asteroid to stop is a whole lot harder. So trying to protect your ship with just hull space is probably not a highly recommended scenario. Also means that if the asteroid cuts right through the middle, you can see we have a small problem. So if we step that up 1 notch to the poor man's wall, aka the pipe, and we drop one of these guys in, we can already see it's doing a much better job of slowing down that asteroid. And there we go. Hull saved, ship saved by using poor man's wall. If we step that up to, well, the next real wall, the actual walls themselves, and drop one of those asteroids in, much more effective. Again, the ship's not moving. If the ship's moving, wall stands a little bit less of a chance. Finally, last honorable mention is the good old landmine. Now, landmines used to be terribly effective, except the devs decided that, well, Landmines, obviously being placed on your hull, should have a little bit of a friendly fire bonus. So consequently, they do a very good job of blowing themselves and their friends up, and also blowing up your hull. So I'm pretty sure the landmines do more damage than anything else. The Astro's passed out the other side at 4,500 hit points, so that didn't really work terribly well for us. Last gun we need to mention is the good old faithful railgun. Now, the railgun is a new addition to Space Age, along with the rocket turret, but the railgun has a couple of advantages. Its biggest advantage being it does a whole lot of damage. If we look at a single railgun shell, we can see that it does 10,000 damage physical. So again, if we break out the asteroids and I throw in a big asteroid at 2,000 hit points, it's pretty much vaporized. If I throw out a huge asteroid, it's also pretty much vaporized. Yeah, it leaves the couple of bigs. The couple of bigs need to be shot down, along with all the mediums, along with all the smalls. And this is when you might notice there's a small problem with the railguns. They're not terribly quick to pick new targets. They're very good at killing things, but not great at picking new targets. Now, railguns are really designed for when you're out in space and you're heading from Aquilo out to the solar system edge, or from the solar system edge out to the shattered planet. They're the points where you're definitely going to need to have a decent amount of railguns up and running to make sure you're going to protect yourself against the huge asteroids. Another thing I should mention is between the solar system edge and the shattered planet, we get a new type of asteroid, one that we haven't seen before, and that are the Prometheum asteroids. The Prometheum asteroids in this small variety have double the hit points. No extra change there. In the medium variety, also have double the amount of hit points. Finally, the big asteroids again have double the amount of hit points. And then finally, the huge asteroids, well, they also have double the amount of hit points. With all the huge asteroids, remove 3,000 physical damage and also 10%. So if we throw down one of these that has 10,000 hit points, you can see that it takes a little bit more than a single shell, which means you need to probably look at some research if you want to take out Prometheum asteroids in a single hit. And yeah, they're really bad at retargeting. Really, really, really bad at retargeting. They're also very good at friendly fire. Okay, we're in luck. We're not going to shoot through our own hull. Let's look at research. So we have railgun shooting speed. I've already researched number 1. So let's get number 2 and number 3 done. After we get railgun shooting speed number 4, being the 8,000 pack one, after that research is done, and we look at a railgun over on the right-hand side, we can see their shooting speed is 0.5 plus 0.36, which is actually their maximum shooting speed. If we come back in here and I just throw in another 10 tiers of research or something, we can see the speed is still the same. It's 0.5 plus 0.36. So again, if I throw out a asteroid, can we get a huge asteroid and dump that right there? That's as fast as they can shoot. It is faster, don't get me wrong. It's almost twice the speed, but it's still not quite as fast as you want. So you don't want to just rely on railguns for your defenses, because they have a habit of not tracking the targets terribly well and eventually running into your hull. As for actually taking out a huge Prometheum asteroid in a single hit, again, research, we need to get railgun damage 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if we get all 4 of those done, and then I throw down one of these guys, it should be one shot. One shot, problem is solved. So when it comes to your railguns, you only really need the first 4 tiers worth of research. As for the railgun, or the rail ammo themselves, it is a pretty simple recipe. It's a little bit of steel, a little bit of explosives, and a whole bunch of copper cable. 5 steel, 2 explosives, 10 copper cable, and as you can see, I have a tiny little build here that's doing the job running on good old-fashioned electric furnaces, and that's more than enough to keep up a single machine making just a little bit of railgun ammo. Not terribly fast, but it's making something. Are you going to be okay there, or is something going to run to the front of the hull again? I don't know. But at this point of the game, you've generally upgraded the ship just a little bit. You've moved on to foundries. And as you can see, I have this little build here that has a few problems. Yeah. Some explosions might have gone off. It was fine. All right. This little build here is doing 1.2 railgun rounds per second. And this is quite easy to run off a single foundry, outputting our molten iron, 3 foundries doing steel, 1 copper foundry outputting straight to copper cable, and that is all that we need to run this little build. But at this point in the game, you're generally using a whole lot of modules and a whole lot of beacons, which means rather than putting together a build that is not exactly large, not exactly small, I have a slightly alternative build here, which is almost the same footprint, but it's outputting 3.6 rounds per second, also 7.5 rockets per second and another 3.5 bullets per second. Again, running off a couple of extra foundries, also a little bit of explosives on the side, and that's all being fed by, well, my pretty much standard at this point, Asteroid Crushers setup. That brings us to the end of our weapon choice list. We have, as I said, the gun, the laser, the rocket launcher, and of course, the railgun turret. If you're interested in any of the modules I've demonstrated during today's video, I make all those modular little blueprints available to all my Patreon members. My way of giving back for them choosing to support the channel, choosing to believe in what I do here. As I mentioned, guns, very, very effective. As for our different ammo choices between your standard yellow ammo, your red ammo, and also uranium ammo, generally they're not worth it. At the low end of the tech tree, the damage upgrades are quite significant between them. But again, research wise, if we're at 8 million there, so let's just take this up to, yeah, a couple of million. We can now see that we're doing 5 plus 18. We're also doing 8 plus 28. Sure, that is now 24 plus almost 100. They're going to take out a small asteroid, whether you're using a yellow round or a red round, or even a uranium round pretty much instantly. The medium asteroids, again, your gun's going to be taking out pretty much instantly with just yellow ammo. As for the big asteroids, because that physical resistance, even uranium ammo is not going to make a dent in that. So they're not worth it. Just stick to the yellow ammo. Lasers, pretty effective at taking out most things. Again, more firepower definitely helps. Also, more laser weapon damage does make a very, very big difference. Rockets themselves, again, yellow ammo, very, very powerful. Red ammo, it works, but you do take a significant hit in the amount of damage. You do gain some of that back with an area of effect attack, so something to consider. And finally, railguns, very good at taking out a single point target. I normally like setting up my defenses with a multi-layered tier of defenses, so I make sure I generally have, obviously, the railguns at the front, because anything standing in front of them is obviously dead already, or it's about to be, and then make sure that I layer what other guns I'm using. My most common method is this very simple setup, which is tileable for my guns. This second setup here, when I add rockets, and then finally this multi-tiered setup here, when I actually get up to railguns and rockets. The idea being that the railguns are going to take out anything in front. We have our asteroid grabbers either side to pick up whatever drops off. We have some guns which actually have the shortest range, only shoot forward half a dozen tiles. I have the lasers which reach just in front of the guns technically and can start doing some damage early on, often with the amount of research I have. They've taken out most things before the rear set of guns actually even consider firing. And then finally I have the rockets, which pretty much take out and break up everything before the guns and the lasers need to deal with them. But that is going to bring us to the end of this little video. I do hope you guys have found it helpful and informative. I think in the next video we should probably break down power before we get into logistics. Space logistics is something that I find very interesting, also a little bit complicated, so I'm pretty sure it needs to have a dedicated video. But with all that said, I do hope you found the video very helpful. I also would appreciate it if I can keep that like that I borrowed at the start of the video, and I will remind you down in the description and in the pinned comment below, you'll find the playlist for other shipbuilding fundamentals. But with all that said and done, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed. I'll see you in the very next video. All right, bye.